All right, welcome to Sharp Mind Show, episode 10. This episode is brought to you by InserSale.com. Make sure you pick you up a cool inspirational t-shirt from InserSale.com because what you wear matters. All right, guys, so first story first. I'm Nate. I'm the FitfutureMD, and we got Robinhood added to the S&P 500. Now, Robinhood is an example of what's called a growth stock. All right, we talked about that a couple days ago to give you an example of what a growth stock is. But basically, their revenue is increasing, but this company itself is also actually profitable. So their profits are actually increasing as well, right? So I started watching this company back when it was, in the $40 range. Since it was added to the S&P 500, it is up 17% in the last 5 days, right? Because basically what happens is ETFs, exchange traded funds, are only allowed to trade a certain way, right? They have certain rules they have to follow. So there are ETFs that can't buy stuff. There are some ETFs out there that can't buy anything unless it's in the S&P 500. Anyway, but so that being said, once this stock is added to the S&P 500, that ETF or that index fund can now all of a sudden be able to buy Robinhood, right? So that's the reason that it's up 17% is because these big ETFs can now invest in this company. But that being said, Robinhood goes from $98 to $118 in a few short days, from being added to the S&P 500. And basically you continue to say, okay, is this a growth stock? Are we going to continue to go up? How high are we in the S&P 500? Because there's, tiers to the S&P 500. Like if you're in that top tier, that top tier is printing money, right? And then, like there are companies in the S&P 500 that are contracting, right? So, but obviously Robinhood being added, it's not contracting, it's growing, right? Also, Robinhood added short selling to its platform. But basically, Robinhood, there have been companies that had come out that had free trading before, TD Ameritrade being the one, before Robinhood. But basically, Robinhood did the best job of, what's called advertising. And what they did, you start thinking about a business point, is they gave away a free stock for sharing, like having your friend sign up for the company, right? So, I signed up for Robinhood because somebody gave me the link to it. That person got a stock, and then so did I, right? Now, little did I know, they were giving me a penny stock, but that penny stock at the time went all the way to $30. Little did we know, obviously we sold the stock as soon as we got it, but, who would have known that, right? But that stock was Plug Power, by the way. But that's how Robinhood grew, exponentially, right? And basically PayPal did the same thing. Like there's a lot of companies. So right now the companies that do like online gambling, that's how they are growing as well, right? You send a link to your friend, your friend gets a $300 sign-up bonus when they place a bet of $5 or, stuff like that, right? And the reason that companies do this is because they have this thing called a lifetime value, right? And they know, so Robinhood knew if they gave you this $5 stock, that your lifetime value to them was going to be 10x, 100x higher than that $5 stock you were giving away. They just had to get you hooked on their website, right? And Robinhood's website is basically like a casino, right? You buy, you get the stars going off, the color schemes, that kind of thing, right? The reason that I personally don't use Robinhood is, because I started out with Robinhood, right? And the reason that I don't personally use Robinhood is because of customer service, right? So, I had a friend that, their account got hacked, and it took 4 or 5 days to ever get up with somebody to get their account back. Also, a lot, their bank account is frozen because it's linked to your bank account, that type of thing. So, I made the conscious decision to switch to TD Ameritrade, which is now Charles Schwab, because anytime of the day I can make a phone call and get up with somebody, right? And that's the reason that I don't use Robinhood. Robinhood is definitely the easier platform to use, right, than other platforms. Obviously, you had other ones come out. Webull is now a publicly traded company as well. It's very popular. It grew using the same tactics, but it's very, very popular as well. But yeah, so Robinhood is added to the S&P 500. It's going to be going up from here. It's a growth stock, not financial advice, but just wanted to go over kind of like how Robinhood actually grew, right? And now that they got you in the door, your lifetime value to them is way higher than the stuff that they gave away, right? All right, so this episode is brought to you by London and the Googly Goo, which is my wife's book. Make sure you check that book out. If you have any nieces, nephews, you got children of your own, I say it's a great moral, great story, and we hope you enjoy it. So check that out in the link below. All right. So, cruise ship passenger jumps overboard to avoid $16,000 in gambling debt. Cruise ship passenger jumps overboard to avoid $16,000 in cruise ship debt. Gambling, right? So, my first thought when, seeing something like this, I'm like, if you're on top of a cruise ship, like, what makes you think to jump off the freaking cruise ship? Like, and then, it's already like a low percentage chance that you live if you jump off the cruise ship. But there's been a lot of people jumping off cruise ships lately that have lived. But most of the time, people would get sucked into the propellers and stuff from a cruise ship. So it's pretty wild that, these people are living, number one. That's the first thing I'm thinking about. But then number two, I'm like, how the hell do you get $16,000 in debt on a cruise ship? It's just pretty wild to me. Like if I don't really see myself going on a cruise ship to gamble, but to each their own, I guess. And then, so this guy also got caught with so he jumped off this cruise ship with $14,000 in cash in his pockets, right? And trying to avoid customs in Puerto Rico. So the story itself is just crazy in general, right? But that was my number one thought. I was like, how are these people continuing to live, jumping off cruise ships, right? So I don't know if cruise ships kind of had some kind of protection thing down there now, and also it's like, how do you get $16,000 in gambling debt on a cruise ship? Like, most people lose their $200 in 5 minutes and walk out, right? Like, they'll say, hit me again, But, like I say, just like you know, so if a casino gives you this line of credit, they know that you have a lifetime value, right? You know, obviously they knew he had this money on him or something, you know, but they know if they give you a line of credit that you're going to be hooked for them, right? That's why gambling is super addictive, right? And even when you know it's gambling or you know it's wrong, it's like, you know, somebody with heroin or, you know, the same thing. Like, people are just addicted to it, and obviously to run up $16,000 in gambling debt and then try to jump off a cruise ship, you know, you're not thinking straight, you know, when you do stuff like this. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Like, can you run up $16,000 in debt on a cruise ship to gamble, or this man just go nuts, you know? And would you jump off a cruise ship to try to get rid of it, right? But yeah, he's going to jail, and you know, glad he lived, I guess. All right, so trademarks and patents are some weird, you know, sometimes they're kind of weird, right? But Bill Belichick has 4 trademarks denied by the patent office, right? One was do your job. The other one is ignore the noise, the Belestrator, and no days off. And so all these ones were denied by the patent office. But apparently, the Patriots and Bill Belichick have done stuff like this before and patented, you know, sayings, right? Now, as you know, I put kind of sayings on T-shirts, you know, and I have to look and see stuff that's trademarked, you know, check, make sure stuff's not trademarked if I use it, that type of thing. But, you know, this man basically already makes millions of dollars. He's already in his 70s. You know, is it really, you know, worth the trouble to trademark, you know, phrases, you know, instead of just letting it be open source and you have your own, you know, if you're going to sell T-shirts or whatever you're going to sell, like, there's really no reason to get the patent on it, you know, unless you're selling stuff that, you know, it really makes money on, right? Now, you know, they may be trying to like go after people that are using the phrase or all that kind of stuff, but you have to prove that kind of stuff in court. Like, it's definitely not something that, you know, it's one of those things you make money on that's kind of frowned upon, right? But like I say, none of these things, these 4 especially, like, there's only one, the Belestrator, you know, that maybe could have, but do your job, ignore the noise, and no days off, those are all like common terms. It's not like he just came up with those terms and, you know, that kind of thing. So let me hear what you guys think in the comments below. Like, should you go after trademarks like this, phrases? You know, would you do it if you were already worth millions and millions of dollars? But I thought it was just an interesting story that they got denied. So, but, you know, that's kind of how things work, I guess. So, all right. So lastly, I'm going to leave you a little thought experiment, right? So we're on the Titanic. The lifeboat, you know, we don't have enough lifeboats, and the boat is sinking. We're going down. Who gets saved and who doesn't, right? Or let's make it a little more interesting. we are the last of all the humans, and we're on a boat that's sinking, and we only have a limited number of lifeboats. Who gets saved and who doesn't, right? Well, when you first think about something like this, you always go back to, okay, we save women and children first, right? But this is the last lifeboat. This is the last of the human race, right? Like, so not only do the boat's sinking, but you still got to survive as a race too, right? As a human race. So do you just blindly do women and children? Do you eliminate the elderly? Like, okay, if you're over, if you can't reproduce, do you let them come? That kind of thing. I still tend to lean towards women and children first, right? Specifically because if you're the last of the human race, you have to be able to repopulate, right? So you need to save the women first. But then after that, it's like, well, who do you go with? Do you go with the smartest? Do you go with, you got to have some strong people to protect the people, right? Like, let me know in the comments down below the order you would protect people, the order you would put people on the lifeboat, right? So, because you have to save the human race, right? We're on the last ship. The ship is sinking, and and we have to save the human race, right? So, let me know what you think in the comments below. Sorry, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and now I'll go ahead and tell you what I think, right? So, like I say, we're going to save women of childbearing age between, 18 and 40, right? All those that would be first, 18 to 40 first. And then you got children behind that. So, most of the children, obviously if there's, some sort of, like the child's got some kind of disease or, some kind of genetic problem, that child's got to stay behind. Then I'm going military age males next. All right, so 18 to 32 males that can fight and protect the women and children, right? And then after that, I'm going by basically needs, right? So I need doctors, people that can farm, that kind of thing, right? And then after that, you just save as many people as you can. But those are basically my big three, right? You got to have women of childbearing age, then the children, and then military men that can protect them. Let me know what order you would choose, right? So, I'm Nate, and I'm a life coach. This is the Sharp Mind Show, episode 10, all right? So, the purpose of this show is to, number one, sharpen your mind, right? So, we're talking about things that, obviously we do talk about some entertainment stuff, because I don't want it to just be boring, but so we talked about Robinhood today, so we're talking about stocks, investing, right? Obviously, that's one of my most favorite topics, and you don't find a lot of people to actually talk about this stuff with. So if you're interested in talking about that kind of stuff, watch my pod. Thank you for watching the podcast, right? Thank you for watching the show. And then you start talking, when we talk about patents, right? Like reasons to have a patent, that kind of thing. And then obviously we're going to sharpen our mind with what's called thought experiments. This one was the ethical dilemma of the lifeboat problem. You don't have enough lifeboats to save everyone, right? So this is kind of what this show is going to be about. And I'm a life coach, right? So we're 10 episodes in. And obviously, I'm trying to help as many people as I can. I say most life coaches charge $150 an hour, and they do 3 or 4 hours with you, take their money, and then you never see them again, right? I don't want that to be the case, right? Because I want the people that I work with to be successful, right? So that's why I do. That's why I do $2,000 for the year, and it's 100% money back guarantee if after that year your life is not improved, right? To the standard that you wanted to be at that we agree on, right? So if you're interested in life coaching, sign up in the description below. Hit me up in the DM if you have any questions about it on Instagram. And make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you shop at linktr.ee. Pick you up a cool inspirational t-shirt today, because what you wear matters, right? What you see what matters. So we got the Halloween drop is out now. So make sure you check that out. It's pretty cool. It says I think it says scare away excuses or something. Yeah, scare away excuses is what it says. It's got the Grim Reaper on the front of it. But that's out right now. Like I say, I'm working on the advertisement for that this week. Obviously because Halloween is here, right? And so pick that up, linktr.ee. And make sure you check out London and Googly Goo if you have children or nieces or nephews that need a good book in their life. It's pretty cheap. It's on Amazon. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.